Nissan Mobil 500. The starter's gun goes off, and it's the Malmo farmer, Georgie Fury, streaking into the lead. Brock down on the inside of Armin Hana, forces him out. Brock moves to second, Hana is third, and Crosby up on the inside of Larry Perkins.
Behind him, Pear Gunner Anderson in the Volvo. He's sharing with Gary Croft. Then Jim Richards, a very good start in the BMW.
Look at the lead that Fury has stretched already. Brock in second, Hana third. They're followed by Crosby, Perkins, and then Gunner Anderson coming up very, very quickly indeed through the field.
Brilliant start by Fury in the Nissan Turbo. A pole position, a great start to 87. A good start also from Soper in the Ford Sierra. He's back in about 7th or 8th. Through
the left-hander, just look at the lead. Fury stretching it all the time over Brocky. Now Hana starting to move up on the tail of Brock, and he's taking Graham Crosby up with him. They've also got away just a little from Larry Perkins. Anderson, Harvey up on the inside as well, and the field already starting to stretch, and this isn't even the first lap.
Full loads of fuel, 120 litres. Car still with relatively cold tyres, but George Fury making a brilliant start as he comes by the wharf area up towards the bridge and around to end his first lap of the 3.2 kilometre circuit. Crosby closing. Perkins, and there's George Fury. End of lap number 1. Some 4 hours of racing to come.
Armin Hana moving up very, very quickly here on Peter Brock. And now goes for it down on the inside. A costly mistake that from Peter Brock. Hana now goes from third to second. Brock will have to contend with Graham Crosby and Larry Perkins.
George Fury leading. Remember that Graham Crosby's car rebuilt this morning. The rear of the Nissan starting to oversteer. Hana getting closer. This car very heavy and hard to handle, though it's power steered. 1,450 kilograms, but still it closes the gap. Now Crosby out from behind Brock, challenges for third and gets through on the inside.
Brock looked like he might lead this race, but he's being swamped at the moment. Crosby's gone through in the Wang Computers Commodore, and Larry Perkins in the NZ Connectors Commodore is now giving Brock a tough time. All the time, though, George Fury is running away from this field.
Through the S's towards Jervis Key and along this very fast back street, and Croft is out of the Volvo. Bowkett has trouble there with the Turbo Nissan, and that's quite a coming together. And then the third car involved, Tony Longhurst in the 325 BMW.
Tony's been in the wars over the last couple of days. That's probably about the 3rd or 4th incident. But just look at the little Nissan. Been levered across to the side of the racetrack, and all the time George Fury in car number 30, the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline, continues to lead this race and almost getting the tail on the wall that time.
Blue flag out showing the slower competitors in the under 2 litre cars that there's trouble, and there's a man with trouble. Alan Grice is out in the Simpson Commodore, and the car parked out behind the wharf end of the circuit. Bad luck for the man who did so well at Mount Fuji. Now Crosby challenging the 2 dealer team cars.
They're up to 5th and 6th. Harvey now coming up on the inside of Peter Brock, and the 2 of them race it up side by side. 5th and 6th placing, so Brock's gone off the boil a little bit, but still able to keep his place on the road ahead of John Harvey. Harvey has looked good here over the last couple of days.
Crosby making a very effective break, and Larry Perkins long gone. The 2 dealer team cars don't seem to be quite on the pace at the moment. Still
sitting nicely there on the road into the left-hander. There's Harvey going through in car number 3. And all the time, the Malmo farmer, George Fury, just running away from the opposition. Look at the gap.
Coming up now behind Port Macquarie's Andrew Mediki in the Ford Sierra that was run here last year by Andy Rouse and David Oxton from New Zealand. Rouse, of course, took this car to a British Touring Car Championship in 1985. The New South Welshman having quite a few problems with the little Ford Sierra in the lead up to today's race. Now Fury gets a clean run up onto the inside and finally gets through behind the Lorimer and Mir BMW. There's second place, Armin Hana.
Looking good is Armin Hana in car number 52, wandering over the road just a little bit that time. It's expected the Jags might feel the pinch in the brake department, but at this stage things are looking good for Armin Hana as he goes out after the race leader George Fury in the Turbo Nissan. The left-hander, and it looks like the Ford Sierra has seen better days, skating all over the road again, so Medeki has really got his hands full. He's had a nice shunt there as well. Race continues, the traffic down the front of the key, the start-finishing line. We're honing in here on Tom Walkinshaw and Jimmy Richards. This is the scrap now for 7th, 8th and 9th position. Uncle Tom Walkinshaw, car number 51, was expected to gain pole, had problems yesterday in qualifying. And Jimmy Richards, of course, the 1985 Australian Touring Car Champion, and he's been looking good in the Archibald BMW 635. All over Walkinshaw now as they streak down the front street here in Wellington.
Well, I would suspect at this stage that Walkinshaw seems to have a slight problem. The car has been gradually dropping back from the other team car being driven by Allan Moffat. A frustrating time for Tom Walkinshaw, who's had problems ever since he came to New Zealand. Last year he had drama with the Rover, now pulls out to the outside, allows Jim Richards to go through. And Steve Soper tagging all the time in the Eggenberger Ford Sierra being run this year by Neville Crichton.
Jimmy Richards goes through, moving up through the pack steadily and looking in good shape at this time.
Tom Walkinshaw comes to the pits in the car number 51, the Jaguar XJS. He's got a left rear tyre problem. You can see the crew working on the back of the car, but quite obviously the tyre that's come off the car has quite graphically overheated. And the car leaves the pits in a time of 34.1 seconds and a very, very professional stop from TWR.
So the Nissan Mobil 500 continues. George Fury in car number 1 leads the high-speed dress parade, and here's Larry Perkins sitting right in behind one of the Jags. Armin Hana coming into the pit area now, was running second in the early stages, getting a little sideways too, and ahead of schedule into the pits.
Well, the team bringing him in as a precaution because it looks as though the Jags are going to chew up tyres on a day that's turned out to be much warmer than anticipated. There's Denny Holden, 67 world champ, being readied and put in the car. Work on the front right-hand corner of the very heavy Jag. Oh, and problems here. That nut's not firmly done up. A real mix-up in the pit stop. Not good work at all. Now the car has to be put back up on its internal jacking system. Pneumatic gun fired back up. Andy Morrison drops the thing and away he goes in a very slow time.
That's costly for the TWR crew, but here's Larry Perkins. That lengthy pit stop has now moved Larry Perkins and the NZ Connectors Commodore up to second, and he trails Georgie Fury in car number 30.
This is a brand new car owned by New Zealand businessman Colin Giltrap, being co-driven today by David Parsons of Tasmania. And Larry, who now runs his own racing operation, looking very good. Ahead here of the Mobil Holden dealer team entry of Peter Brock and John Harvey.
Well, Brock has been coming back through the field, has now moved to third. There's Graham Crosby sitting right in behind in the Wayne Computers Commodore. He's back to fourth. So Brock has been making the moves in the last 4 or 5 laps. Graham Crosby, car number 6, the car performing extremely well. Oh, and there's problems for Robbie Francevic, I believe, in the Pine Pack Mustang. Now he's gone straight ahead, should have turned just before that, so problems for Robbie Francevic.
That's just at the end of the Jervis Key back straight, and it looks like there's a fair trail of oil from under the Mustang.
Meanwhile, George Fury, car number 30, just streaming away from the opposition. Still almost 40 seconds clear. He goes down the front straight here at Wellington.
A new case construction D12 Dunlop radial tyre on this car. They're hoping to eliminate the problems they had at Bathurst last year. You'll recall that it was shedding rubber all over the place. And this car has not faltered for 1 beat and continues to stretch the lead, which is out now to over 30 seconds.
They set the pace in qualifying yesterday morning, came back in the afternoon, set quick time in the second session, then in a Hardy's Heroes type shootout, gained pole position, the only one to make the 33s. And there's problems for Graham Crosby, was running fourth into the pits. Big problems there for Cros, out of the car, and they could well and truly be out of the race.
He's talking there with Les Small from Roadways, the man who built the engine for this car.
And also in the pits at the same time, here has come Larry Perkins. He was running second, so that takes a little bit of the pressure off Georgie Fury. David Parsons from Tasmania now in the car. They might be able to stay in the top 6 as Parsons rejoins the race. Peter Brock, car number 05, doing it nicely. Now second in the field, back from fourth, third, now second. Can he make up the gap? and Larry Perkins in the pits.
Larry, that looks to be one of the toughest stints you've done for a long time. Were you surprised that you were able to haul in the Jags and indeed the dealer team Commodores so early in the race?
I weren't surprised. Maybe they were. I've been testing a long time over the last 3 months. And I know in Australia I've been the only bloke, bar than Nissan, who's been testing. And I think, you know, at this point in time it's certainly paying off. And, you know, I'm not abusing the machinery, and David can lap the same time, and, you know, we've just got to keep it all together.
Peter Brock, the Allan Moffat car coming into the pit area now. Brock will step out of the car, Moffat will step in. This was Moffat's debut race last year with the Mobil Holden dealer team. They came up trumps on that occasion under very threatening skies, so they're looking pretty good at this stage. Fury still leads the Nissan Mobil 500. A very slick pit stop, but no, it looks like the number 3 car with John Harvey at the wheel has also come into the pits, and that's going to hold Harvey up and get Lowe out not as quickly. Still a quick stop for Neil Lowe, and John Harvey in the car ready to resume. So order basically unchanged. Problems here for one of the Nissans, car number 9.
That's the Jeff Burrows Kieran Wills car from Auckland. Nissan Turbo Skyline with a rear end failure of some description.
Is he what?
Quite
He's got
massive.
a fraction too much friction there. The Statesman Shirts entry. And it's heading back to the pit area for some well-needed panel beating. Marky Fury doing hubby George's lap timings as Fury goes across the start-finishing line, increasing that lead all the time here in the Nissan Mobil 500. Into the hairpin corner. Almost overruns Madecki, I believe, in car number 1. Boy, he's been a mobile chicane here today. Jimmy Richards, car number 31, coming up through the pack. Second on the road at the moment, Jimmy Richards, an outstanding performance. And that car will run just as sweetly all day long.
And there's our third place man, Steve Soper from the UK, driving the Eggenberger Ford Sierra that's been acquired by Neville Crichton.
This car will receive the full Cosworth tradition a little later on and be campaigned in the Australian Championship. The Nissan Mobil 500 continues. George Fury is your race leader, Jimmy Richards is second, and Stephen Soper is third. Nissan Mobil 500 and race leader Georgie Fury comes into the pits. Glenn Seaton will take over. They're looking in pretty good shape. A very handy lead built up, and things going extremely well for the Peter Jackson Nissan team. What looks like a routine pit stop. Going about their work very quickly. Hood coming up. It's unusual because they were just about ready, I believe, to go out. And it would appear that the Nissan team have got troubles. Georgie Fury out of the car with Fred Gibson. Glenn Seaton in the car. And they have got a major dilemma. Engine has overheated. Oh, just look at that. There goes the race, and there goes the new leader in the race, and that, of course, is Jimmy Richards in the Archibald BMW 635. Richards now in front, and he'll be a hard man to peg back from there. Richards across the bridge, comes down across the start-finishing line, and now the race leader.
Fred Gibson, that's a real disaster.
It's our first DNF for a long time, actually, Neil. The car threw a fan belt and overheated the engine and cooked the engine. One of the marshals told me it was spewing something out front of the bonnet. We didn't know what it was until the car come in, and it's thrown a fan belt off for some reason.
A critical pit stop now for Jimmy Richards. Jim is out of the car. Trevor Crowe is in the car now. Number 31, keeping in mind that Tony Longhurst and Crowe almost won this race last year. They had an unassailable lead built up in the closing stages of the race, a suspension failure, and went off the racetrack. A routine pit stop, and Crowe rejoins the race. Whoops, as the Sierra comes in. Allan Moffat, car number 05, now leads the Nissan Mobil 500, and what a wonderful feeling for Allan Moffat. His first drive here 12 months ago with the Mobil dealer team. had rain practically all day and they lucked into a win here last year. Things are looking much better for them in 1987. And the bumps on the circuit so evident as they come down to the left-hander. Moffat leads. David Parsons of Tasmania in second spot in the Larry Perkins NZ Connectors Commodore. At this stage, it's going to take a good man to peg back Allan Moffat.
Moffat complaining earlier on of the sore wrist that, of course, he had problems with back at Bathurst last year, which was a recurring problem then from something that happened at Service Paradise in the Mazda a few years back. He said the circuit is just so rough and so tiring. Although the Holden Commodore has power steering, it still doesn't make up for the fact that it's quite a heavy car to manhandle around this street circuit.
Into the hairpin corner. Moffat with a big lead, still over David Parsons, coming up on some slower cars. Is that Parsons? Yes, it is. Parsons has had a big crunch up on the guardrail. Car number 11, the NZ Connectors Commodore, is heading back to the pits, and there goes the race for Larry Perkins and David Parsons. What wretched luck for a car and a combination that looked so good for so long here on the streets of Wellington this afternoon. And he's going to be lucky indeed to make it back to the pit area.
That's pretty substantial damage. Larry Perkins looking at the television monitor.
Here comes Parsons into the pits. I don't think Larry will be too happy for a close-up inspection of the vehicle. Cast an eye over the car. It has been severely damaged, obviously bounced off guardrail.
Neil Burns, the chief mechanic, looking on as Neville Crichton brings the Steve Soper number 10 Sierra to the pits as well. That car had a crash yesterday in practice with Dick Johnson. Soper there under the bonnet.
Steve, of course, has driven the Eggenberger Ford Sierra Turbos throughout the European Championship in '86. And here's a man on the move. It's Charlie O'Brien of Queensland in the State Coal number 7 BMW. And through process of elimination and pit stops, Charlie O'Brien now finds himself up to second behind Allan Moffat.
This is a very good drive from Charlie O'Brien, the Queenslander, in the 635 BM, which to me is still very much the dark horse in this race. They only require one pit stop for fuel and tyres. They're very easy and rhythmic in their style around the circuit, comfortable to drive, weigh about 1,185 odd kilograms.
Static belt hanging off the back of it there. And there he goes back onto the wharf area, a very picturesque setting for a motor race, the streets of Wellington. And the course has been widened in some areas and certainly made life easier for the drivers across the bridge area. Last year it was a narrow one-lane bridge. The drivers have found it a little easier to deal with in 1987. Beneath the Foster's Bridge and heading out again, Charlie O'Brien, who seems to have a lot of bad luck, running second and running a very strong second to Allan Moffat.
He had a win recently in New Zealand in the Simpson Series, which is the equivalent to our touring car series, if you like, Mike, and now he comes to the pits to hand over to Glenn McIntyre.
Well, if they can get their pit work right, Charlie O'Brien will still be able to keep the car certainly within the top 6. He's into the pits now. McIntyre taking a bit of filler for the seat. Charlie's a big broth of a lad. McIntyre in. McIntyre now ready to rejoin the race. He's underway.
Allan Moffat at the wheel of the 05 Commodore. Still nicely in command.
Recording about the same lap times as Neil Lowe. And more importantly, keeping at about the same pace that Peter Brock was setting early in the race. And in fact, now we have the situation where Allan Moffat is coming up behind the number 3 car to put a lap on it. I would think that Moffat would show a lot of caution. There's still a lot of traffic out there. The slower cars haven't been making life easier for the drivers, particularly in the tight sections of racetrack. The Harvey Low car goes through. Allan Moffat sits in behind. Will pick his time to make a passing manoeuvre, probably as they head down the start-finishing straight next time. Neil Lowe doing a great job in the second of the Mobil dealer team cars, number 3. Keep in mind, he was a standout performer in the Commodore's win at the King's Cup, the Spa 24-hour classic last year. As Moffat is studying concentration through the chicane. They're closing up now all the time on Neil Lowe. Neil, I would think that the Mobil Holden dealer team would be satisfied with this 1-2 performance, and so too would TWR. Tom Walkingshaw coming up through the field, car number 51. Major Tom looking the goods at this stage, and he's made it up to 5th in the race.
It's not a bad performance from Walkinshaw, and they now seem to have rectified their tyre compound selection problems. They went for a little softer compound than they should have earlier in the race, and they've now firmed up on the 17-inch Dunlop Deadlock tyres, which are the type of tyre you can run on even when they lose air and become flat.
So Tom Walkingshaw goes through. What a car, what a machine to manhandle around this very, very tight circuit. And this has to be the toughest turn on any motor racing circuit in Australasia. The hairpin. And that looks like Trevor Crowe parking car number 31. What wretched luck. They were running in the top 3, so Crowe and Richards are out of the Nissan Mobil 500. Their bad luck continues. Meanwhile, Armin Harder, car number 52, coming down here to the left-hander and locking up. It's making square tyres on the Jag as he goes into the left-hander. Throws it through here. I'll tell you what, Harner's not backward and giving the big Jag plenty of stick. Look at him through here, sideways through here. Oh, and almost catches it on the guardrail. So Harner is through and in pretty poor shape, but he guns it back down the straight.
Trevor Crowe was the driver who was pushing the dealer team along quite nicely, but unfortunately that challenge has fizzled. Trevor, what happened?
We're not sure. We think it's the clutch. It could be half shaft universal. It's just lost all drive. Won't go in any of the gears. I've tried them all. It just happened quite suddenly and had no warning at all. The car really didn't feel good before that. You know, it was running perfectly. We still had a lot of brakes, and by just conserving the tyres with full tanks, waiting for a bit of a burst later on. Once the petrol level goes down, you can give it a bit more. So just cruising along. But it's one of those things. Second year in a row.
The Nissan Mobil 500 continues. Allan Moffat leads in 0.5. McIntyre is second. The last scheduled stop for the Mobil Holden dealer team, and he will hand over to Peter Perfect.
Nick Webb, of course, the team manager for Allan Moffat in the early days, is now the team manager for the Mobil Holden dealer team, and he's supervising operations at the moment. That's him just in the background, and the car goes out in a very quick time, and Harner has problems with the Jag.
Harner has looped the Jag, and it's touched a wall too. The back part of the car has been caved in, and the traffic up there is horrendous. He's trying to get it off the circuit. So it looks like the race is just about over for Armin Harner. And he was looking so good for so long in this event. There you can see where he's stalled, trying to back it up out of harm's way. There's Andy Morrison and Tom Walkingshaw getting the bad news. One of the Jags is out of commission. Tom, of course, is just in, having passed over to Win Percy. Has one of those cool suits on. He's not the sort of a lad you'd want to pick in a barroom brawl, let me tell you, Tom Walkingshaw.
And Neil Lowe, the Kiwi, brings car number 3, the Mobil Holden dealer team Commodore, into the pits. We've started our stopwatch. John Harvey, the veteran, 48 years of age, climbs in. Having a look on the side of the tyre here, and they're still using their Dunlop radial slick tyres. They've been experimenting with 16 and 17-inch Bridgestone and Dunlops throughout the course of the weekend, and this so far looks to be a very comfortable stop. You can see them working away at the front right-hand side. Arms in the air, the crew signify that the tyre change has been well effected. The fuel guys are now ready. 2 churns have gone in. Mick Webb, the manager at the front, indicating that they should fire it up. John Harvey's been belted down tight, and the watch stops at a time of 37.5 seconds. A good stop from the dealer team.
So John Harvey goes back into the race as we pick up on Glenn McIntyre and the State Coal, number 7 BMW, the Charlie O'Brien entry. Still running second in the race, holding down that spot on the road at the moment, and he's doing a great job for Charlie O'Brien. Coming up to the left-hander at Strathmore turn, car bumping violently. And gets it sideways too through there. So the fortunes of Charlie O'Brien continue for the better in this race after a wretched run on the Australian circuits throughout 1986. State Coal entry.
Just shows you how effective you can be with a car that will run consistently for you without causing problems.
Here's Win Percy in the Walkingshaw entry, running in 4th on the road at the moment, looking extremely competitive and surprisingly coming back through the field. Now the distance is still on their side. In 4th, ahead of them of course, as he screams up into the left-hander here, McIntyre and of course John Harvey in the Mobil Commodore. Still a lot of work to do. And as they swing through here, Win Percy giving this race absolutely everything as the Jaguars make their competition farewell in Group A homologation here on the Shaky Isles this season. Win Percy, 4th on the road as they swing once again across the bridge.
With me at the moment is Armin Hardy. You've already seen what happened to the Jaguar XJS. Armin, what was the problem? You were climbing back through the field very well.
Yeah, my car did well after I climbed in after Denny, but then the left rear tire started to go off and I asked my pit to come in. But just when I asked, Tom was in, so I couldn't come in, and they told me to stay out one more lap. And then when I just went on the bridge, the left rear tire went flat and I went straight on into the Armco.
Well, a flat spotting a tyre, but here's a man that's almost flat spotted the Alpha. That's the Dulux entry. Johnny French from Queensland. It looks like he's tipped the car over on its side near the guardrail. They've righted the car, pushing him up to try and fire the engine and get him out of harm's way. So bad luck there for Johnny French. Veteran Australian driver, Peter Brock. Car number 05 continues to lead the Nissan Mobil 500, and will he make it the double? He won here in 86 and he's looking awfully good in 1987. And not sparing the rod at all, the 05 Commodore. A big season ahead, the World Touring Car Championship and of course the Australian Championship. So 87 is in fact going to be an extremely busy year for Peter Brock and Allan Moffat.
This is the last time that we'll see the VK Commodore on the streets of Wellington, and it's the second last outing for the car. They'll have their final run at Pukekohe next weekend in the second round of this series. It's a 2-round series to determine the champion for the Nissan Mobil 500. The new VL has been extensively tested and is on its way, and Brock claims is a much faster and more stable and better handling car than this VK.
He's looking relaxed here today, coming down to the hairpin again. Peter Brock, 05, the Mobil Holden dealer team. A very sizable lead, a great buffer. Here's the man running in second, Glenn McIntyre, and look who's closed on him, it's John Harvey. So this is going to go right down to the wire. Second place, the red BMW, the State Coal entry, and John Harvey warming to the idea of a 1-2 here for the Mobil team, getting on even terms now. Across the bridge, through the chicane and coming down the front straight.
A very good idea here of the difference in horsepower in these two cars, with the BMW putting out about 300 at very best, and the Commodore up into the early 400s, about 420, 430 brake horsepower, and John Harvey now right under the bumper bar of the 635.
Well, we'll see whether Harvey can intimidate young Glenn McIntyre. Here they come down the front straight and down on the inside. So John Harvey, V8 wide open, and he takes back second place, and the dealer team looking good at this stage for a 1-2. McIntyre now drops back into third. Neil Lowe, I would think, would be delighted with that. They've got a 1-2 set up here, and troubles here on the bridge as well. Two of the cars have collided, and also Bill Bryce, by the look of it, as well, in the BMW 325, the car that was co-driven by Tony Longhurst, and there is the car. Bryce's machine parked in against the guardrail. Bryce stepping out of the car, and I tell you what, they've had some damage here this weekend. It's almost a graveyard of late models up there, and the marshals trying to pull the cars off. Win Percy, meantime, looking for third place, and here he comes, chasing Glenn McIntyre. He's already been rounded up by John Harvey. They're pretty close as they come across the bridge here. And Win Percy is on the prowl, coming down the outside, and he swings underneath and takes it back. So Win Percy has now advanced to third. A great drive from the man who has sent the European Touring Car Championship scene alight
Tom, it's been a great charge from behind from you.
Yeah, well, that's what we planned to do, you know. We thought we'd take it easy the first half of the race and go in the second. Unfortunately, we got 3 punctures, and so we've had a couple of unscheduled pit stops, and that sort of screwed up the master plan. But, well, we're giving it all we've got at the moment. Wynn's doing a good job.
So you think there's a realistic chance now for second place?
Yeah, we're about 6 seconds behind the second place car, so he's going for it.
And he certainly is. John Harvey feeling the pressure now. Harvey running in second behind Brock, and Wynn Percy getting closer all the time. They come beneath the Foster's Bridge, coming back onto the wharf area again. Harvey checking the mirrors. And I tell you what, Wynn's not going to go away. He's dialed in right behind him now as they come on to the start-finishing straight. And pulling out as they come down the straightaway now, and almost a touch there of cars. Tom's excited about the whole thing because Wynn Percy has now been able to put a lot of pressure on John Harvey in car number 3. Simply out accelerates.
Great comeback from Wynn Percy. Remember, this car qualified in 10th at the hands of Tom Walkinshaw. Then they had more tyre problems. Early in the race, they had to switch to a hard compound. Now he's coming back. He's challenging for second place. He's got the horsepower. Range is up on the outside. And Wynn Percy through to second place in the Nissan Mobil 500.
The win certainly in Percy's face as he takes the left-hander. Car number 3 drops back into third. That's John Harvey, so things are looking good for the TWR team, sponsored by Strathmore Motorsport for their New Zealand campaign. Peter Brock, car number 05, comes onto the bridge, and he continues to lead the Nissan Mobil 500. Wynn Percy in car number 51 is second. Harvey is third. For the Mobil Holden dealer team, well, certainly for this man, Peter Brock, winner of the race in 1986 and almost a certainty in 1987. Wynn Percy in the Jaguar placed second, and John Harvey in the second of the dealer team Commodores is third.
They've done a good job of building these cars, and the testing and development they've done over the Christmas period has worked in their favour, because it now looks as though we're going to have at least 2 dealer team cars up amongst the top contenders at the end of the 500Ks. Actually, it'll be interesting to see whether it runs 500Ks or 4 hours, in fact, and Percy's in trouble. Wynn Percy in strife in the Jaguar.
Yes, he's limping around the circuit. Engine sounding very, very rough indeed. And what wretched luck for Wynn Percy in car number 51. All the way back through the field, second place, locked up solid, and things not looking good. And it says it all, the expression of Tom Walkinshaw. The crowd have enjoyed a marvellous fight back, but Wynn Percy is not going to finish this race.
Well, as you can well see, Wynn Percy is coming to the pits in the Jaguar XJS. I was about to have a word with Andy Morrison, but as you can well imagine, he's now a busy man. I was going to ask him whether or not he had a hint of the problem. He whispered something to Tom Walkinshaw. I don't know what it was, but I suspect it's something to do with driveline from what I heard. You can see the car now limping in. It's taken some 20 seconds just to come down here, and even around us now we can hear the applause of the crowd for what has been a terrific drive from Wynn Percy. Tom Walkinshaw in the side of the car gives Wynn a pat. No real hint of what the problem is. Andy's standing around in the front of the car. He's not too busy now. I'll excuse myself in front of camera. Andy, any idea what happened?
It looks as if the axle's gone. That's the way it goes.
One of those things. You gave it your best shot. It was a great performance.
Well, 8 minutes to go, and there you go.
Andy Morrison there with Neil Crompton in the pits. Car number 3, of course, John Harvey in the second of the Mobil Commodores, now up to second. Well, that was close there, coming through the chicane, one of the slower cars. So things falling into place for the Mobil team. Harvey, who has run at a consistent pace all day. Neil Lowe the same. Peter Brock, his car has not missed a beat. They go down into the chicane. The left-hander, John Harvey, has taken over the car from Neil Lowe and will close up behind Peter Brock. But also looking good for Glenn McIntyre in the State Coal BMW, because that now will pull them up to third.
The dealer team made a conscious decision early in the day that they weren't going to force the pace. They realised that this is a tough circuit to compete on. There's a lot of dead cars around. In fact, I count only 14 vehicles on the road out of 43 starters as I look out the commentary window.
Well, a relaxed Allan Moffat and Neil Lowe, the co-drivers' roles that they've played today, magnificent. And there's Glenn McIntyre in car number 7, the State Coal BMW 635. Came into the pits very, very late indeed, with Charlie O'Brien, and built up a substantial gap over third and 4th.
Good performance by the 42-year-old McIntyre from Auckland, New Zealand. Co-drove with Charlie earlier this year and late last year in the New Zealand Touring Car Championship, the Simpson Series. And Peter Brock continues on his merry way in car 05. Steve Soper and Neville Crichton still in 4th position in the Ford Sierra Turbo, and then it's daylight back to the rest of the field. Good performance from Brock and the boys. As I said, they've driven conservatively. They haven't driven these cars into the ground. You can't afford to go thrashing 400 and 450 horsepower cars around to your brake transmissions on a street circuit. And the Brock Mobil team have stuck to the flight plan all the way through. There's the form finish board for 1-2 for the media. And this is going to be copybook stuff from the dealer team.
Yes, a signal there to Peter Brock to just ease it up a little. Let John Harvey catch up in car number 3. Here's Harvey. Has just come through past the Foster's Bridge and try to close it up behind Peter Brock. The danger, though, for Harvey is going to be Glenn McIntyre, because he's really only about 8 or 10 seconds in arrears. So it'll be fine for Peter Brock to slow it up, but if Harvey catches him, both cars are likely to then be caught by Glenn McIntyre. Here's Harvey coming down to the start finishing straight, and this will be a fine result for Harvey, keeping in mind he won the second leg in the Mobil Series at Pukekohe near Auckland last year.
Well, Brock is absolutely coasting as he goes past our commentary point and down to the hairpin towards the wharf. Harvey now looms up in the background as they go through the very tight left-hander. Neil Lowe with Bev Harvey. They know that they've bagged one, but there's the BMW in the background, although McIntyre is coasting as well. I'd wonder whether he realises there's still a lap to go. Looking at the clock now, we're approaching about 4 or 5 minutes past the hour, which I would say has caught a few of the teams out, because it's going to be determined on time, not laps.
Well, they've managed to out-accelerate again, going down to the left-hander. Peter Brock in 0.5. There's McIntyre in the distance.
Well, he's given the game away. He obviously thinks that...
the race is over.
Yes, and that's a mistake.
Well, it could be a costly one. Here's Brock coming through past the Foster's Bridge. The big crowd here on the Wellington waterfront ready to erupt as the 2 Mobil Commodores come out of the final chicane back onto the start finishing straight. And of course the 1987 Nissan Mobil 500, a formation finish as they come down the start finishing line. Chalk it up, 1-2 to the Mobil Holden dealer team. A fine result, and Glenn McIntyre and the Stake-Cole BMW will take 3rd. So plenty of Aussies will be delighted about that. Charlie O'Brien's car gets up for a 3rd place finish.
Well, a terrific performance there from the dealer team, and I guess a bit of a surprise. Allan Moffat, the number 2 driver, he's happy. Brock's happy.
I think they're all happy. Mick Webb there, the new team manager. What a way to start with the Mobil team. Peter Brock and John Harvey acknowledge the cheers of the crowd. Let's recap the placings for you. Peter Brock and Allan Moffat take the Wellington 500. 2nd place goes to Harvey and Lowe, and 3rd place to McIntyre and Charlie O'Brien.